first episode of Soul Shift, where we talk all things life, love, and anything and everything in between. I'm your host, Dani, and today's episode is all about one of the most incredible journeys a woman can embark on, which is motherhood. Now, one of my friends from college, she recently gave birth to a baby boy in December, and she is in the thick of it. My daughter is 4 years old now. She'll be 5 in June. But through supporting her and talking to her a lot about her journey, I realized how much mothers truly struggle in this new role. And I was reminded of a lot of my struggles, which I somehow repressed and kind of pushed them out of my mind and just have been fully present in the stage of motherhood I am in now. However, it is important to realize that there are several stages of motherhood and there's a lot of emotions that go along with it. Because we always hear about that shift, right? From one kid to two kids. And they always say how hard that is. But we never hear about that shift from zero kids to one kid. Okay, that is a real soul shift, all right? So if you're feeling lost and alone in mommy world, or you just need someone to relate to, someone who's overstimulated yet totally in love with their kid, that's me. I can relate. And this is the episode for you. Let's keep on listening. All right, so let's kick things off with a reality check. You know, those like picture perfect moments that we see plastered all over social media where everything just looks wonderful and they take that perfect picture to announce their baby's birth. And you're thinking, how the heck do you look that good after you just gave birth to a baby? Yeah, sometimes they're just that. They're just moments. The truth is, not every mother experiences an overwhelming rush of joy the second their kid is born. And you know what? That's okay. Motherhood is messy and it is complicated and it is different for everyone. And like I said, I've been really tapping in and reflecting on my journey through motherhood. And I have been confronted with several emotions, and not all of them are joy. Exhaustion's one. Challenging. Yes, there's this overwhelming love, but there is also overstimulation. Oh my goodness, am I overstimulated? Whether it is walking downstairs after I just clean up these toys and they're somehow all back all over the floor, or hearing mommy, mommy 8,000 times in 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm overstimulated. It's a roller coaster like none other. And if you're a mom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, let's talk about uh, my journey into motherhood. It was not pretty, okay? It was not all rainbows and butterflies. I'm going to be totally honest. My pregnancy was no walk in the park. It felt like a never ending bout with nausea and exhaustion. And pregnancy literally hit me like a ton of bricks. There were days where I did not know if I was going to make it to the end. Like I didn't know if I was going to be able, if my body was going to sustain and be able to bring her into this world because it was that bad. I had hyperemesis gravidarum, which if you don't know what that is, it's a fancy term for morning sickness. It's a severe morning sickness that lasts all day, all night, and well past your 3 month or your 12 weeks. It goes pretty much up until the end. In my case, all the way until they took my daughter out. I even was sick on the operating table. On the way to the operating room, I was like throwing up on the side of the bed. So it very much went with me from beginning to end. But you know what? Through all of that that I went through, there was still this undeniable sense of like excitement and anticipation for what was going to happen. But then, of course, we're not done. We went through pregnancy. It was rough, but labor and delivery was now here. And I was induced. She didn't want to come. So I had a little extra help when I was induced. That's a story in itself. But yes, I won't bore you with all the gory and long details, but labor and delivery was an experience for me. I had an induced labor, like I said, and I was in labor for 28 to 29 hours before they then decided I needed an emergency C section. Like my daughter's oxygen levels tanked completely. They threw oxygen on me. They kept shifting me to different positions, trying to get her heart rate to go back up. And it wasn't. So they decided that's enough. Let's get her out safely, which of course was the end goal. So C-section it was. But because of the C-section, I couldn't hold her right away. I was so numb, like from the neck down, my arms, everything from all of the meds. You get the epidural, which already kind of numbs you, but I had to have it 3 times. It never truly worked. I also have scoliosis, so a very curved spine. So it took a lot of people coming in trying to get it in properly. And then I needed the C-section, which required even more medication, so I couldn't feel anything. They just kind of put it near my face while I am strapped to this operating table. Because if you don't know, when you have a C-section, at least in my case, I was strapped to the table. They had bands on my wrists and I was attached to the table. They said for my safety. I don't know why or what that caused, but they did end up unstrapping me a little bit later, brought her back out, and I could kind of reach my hand up and feel her, but I still wasn't fully in that moment, compared to what you see in the movies, right? So in the movies, it's always this like magical tear filled experience. Time seems to stand still, and this mom is just overcome with joy. But you know what? Real life ain't like the movies. Okay. At least for some of us. That moment for me was not accompanied by tears and this immense joy. It was exhausting. I felt exhaustion. I felt exhaustion. I felt relief and maybe in a little bit of disbelief. And I think that's normal. I did not feel that immediate bond that everyone talks about. I was tired, I was sore, and I was literally having my body put back together. And I was still trying to process the fact that this little baby was going home with me. Now, yes, I'd been around children before. I had been teaching for 4 or 5 years at that point my daughter was born. I'm not in education anymore, but I've been teaching for years and I taught for 2 years after her birth. So children was no new thing to me. I had tons of little cousins I'd helped raise from infancy, but she was mine. Like morning to night, all day, she's mine, and I was still coming to terms with that. In my case, when I left recovery, I did feel somewhat normal and I was obsessed with her. Once I got in the room and I started to kind of get my feeling back, I could not get enough of her. But if that's not your story, that's okay too. Bonding with your baby is also a process, and I really don't think that's talked about enough. Just the moment you see that baby, how things are different for every mom. Now, once you're home, there are sleepless nights. There are a ton of diaper changes, and there are going to be moments, at least for me, where it felt like I was barely keeping it together. But in the midst of that chaos, there are these like heart melting, burst your heart open moments, like the first smile. My goodness, y'all. My baby smiled for the first time on the 4th of July. So, July 4th, 2019 was her first smile. I'll never forget it. I got a picture of it, and it was just like the biggest infant toothless grin, like baby dream. She was in her sleep but smiling. She was only a month old. Well, she turned a month on July 5th, but it was the best. It made me cry because it was just made me so happy to see that smile. That is everything. And in those moments, the challenges don't matter. They are just replaced by an overwhelming sense of just love and gratitude. And I don't have the answers to everything. I'm not an expert when it comes to navigating motherhood. And Lord knows I've made a ton of mistakes along the way. Um, but one thing I do know is that there is so much importance in finding the joy in the little things, whether it's, you know, bedtime stories, or when your kid says, "Mom, can I jump in that puddle?" And you say, "Hey, go for it." And you get a cute picture and y'all laugh about it. Any of those moments, or even if it's just you by yourself, when you are by yourself on your back deck having a cup of coffee and just getting yourself together, all of those things are going to immensely help you mentally in motherhood. And speaking of mental health, mental wellness, all throughout motherhood, that leads us to postpartum depression and mommy blues. And mommy blues is something I didn't even really know existed until I found out I had it. PPD, or postpartum depression, is not talked about enough. It's a topic that does not get enough attention. And it's something that affects countless mothers around the world. And contrary to popular belief, it's not just feeling a little down the dumps. It's not just like a bad day. It is a serious mental health issue that makes every single day feel like an uphill battle on what is already an immensely difficult journey. And the thing is, there's no shame in reaching out for help, but often it feels shameful because of the way that motherhood is described in those early days and how joyful everyone feels. It could feel shameful to feel the way you're feeling if you have PPD, but there's no shame in reaching out for help. It could be therapy, medication, talking to a friend. There are so many resources to help you and to support you, and you should absolutely look into those if you need to. But talking about my journey with PPD and mommy blues, I experienced it. And I would say my experience was more of a mild level of depression compared to some stories that I've heard where it's just crippling, can't even get out of bed. That wasn't my story, but I definitely struggled a lot. So in the days following my daughter's birth, I just found myself crying. And I don't mean like a tear of happiness here and there. I mean sobbing, like sniffling, red eyes, swollen, puffy eyes in the morning, bawling my eyes out every day. It wasn't the typical postpartum depression that I've heard about where the mom doesn't want to be near their baby. I was the complete opposite. I wanted to be with her all of the time. But whenever she would like drift off to sleep, whether it was for a nap or for the night, the tears would come like uncontrollably. I could not stop crying. And I remember this one time like vividly. She was like 10 hours old. We're in the hospital. We're in the hospital. She's just born. She's brand new. They're coming to do tests and everything. And I was sobbing. I was bawling my eyes out because I was convinced that she was already growing too much, that I've already lost so much time with her. Like her taking these tests, she's grown so much when she comes back. I've missed all this time. It was like she was almost one in my mind, and I could not stop crying. I felt like time was just slipping away and she was changing so much, which looking back seems so unreasonable because we're in the hospital. Like this baby is brand new and I was sobbing. But my family was like, it's hormones. It's just her hormones. And that seemed reasonable because I did just have a baby. There's a lot going on. Your emotions are kind of out of control. Hormones are all over the place. So I was okay with that. I could use that as my reason for why I was crying so much. But it wasn't just that. Because after I brought her home, I had moments like that where I sobbed for about 2.5 weeks. I didn't seek professional help. I relied on Google and my husband. And looking back, I wish I reached out for more support. It disrupted my life in a massive way. I missed out on so many key moments with my daughter because I was so anxious and worried about time and thinking she was growing too fast. And I just wish I handled it differently. I would have definitely reached out for more help. After a while, when I continued to cry, my husband and my mom did recommend I get help, and I just didn't. I was ashamed because I didn't want anyone to feel like I didn't love my baby or I didn't want to be with my baby when that was the opposite of how I felt. I couldn't describe really how I felt. So I didn't get help. I kind of just powered through on my own. But I don't recommend that. That was really tough. So, to any new moms who might be going through something similar, please know you're not alone and it is okay to ask for help and admit that you're struggling. You should ask for help and admit that you're struggling because there are so many support groups out there for you. Motherhood is filled with so many ups and downs, and sometimes we need some support to go through those things. So don't be afraid to reach out and get the support that you need. Now, I don't want to be too bleak. I don't want to, paint this negative picture here, because despite the challenges, motherhood is filled with these moments of just indescribable joy. Like the first time the baby smiles, like I said, or them laughing. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am obsessed with my daughter's laugh. She could laugh at a show on her tablet, just whatever she's watching at the moment on YouTube Kids, and my stomach will just start, I'll get butterflies, because this the sound of knowing that she is genuinely happy and enjoying life just lights me up. It does it for me every single time. And I can't explain it. If you're a mom, you've heard your baby like have a genuine laugh, genuine laughter, excitement, joy. It's amazing, especially in the world we live in now, to know that in her world things are all good. It's a game changer for me. And that makes it all worthwhile. The moments that remind me why I wanted to do this in the first place. Like why I wanted to be a mom, those moments right there make it all worth it for me. So, to all the moms out there who are just knee deep in dirty diapers and the sleepless nights, or maybe you just snapped at your kid because, you've heard mommy for the 50th time in a row and you're just trying to write this email, because I've been there. Please know that you're doing an amazing job. You're doing an amazing job. You're a good mom. Even on the days where it feels like you are barely holding it together, you're enough. And anyone who's struggling to start their journey into motherhood, just remember you are also not alone. There are so many support systems. Just reach out and lean on them, and don't be afraid to ask for help in those areas either. Um, and I'm no expert, just like I said, it's just someone who has real life experience in this. And I would love to hear more of your stories. If you have a story, please don't hesitate to share it with me. Or if you want to come on and talk about your journey into motherhood, or any of your experiences with being a mom, please feel free to let me know and come and chat about it with me. You can find all my information down in the show notes. But I'm signing off for now. And remember, the journey of motherhood is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So take a deep breath and keep moving forward. Until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and keep embracing the shifts. Bye.